What's a hobby for yourself that may surprise people that you spend a lot of time dedicated toward?
I run a lot, which is something that is pretty standard, but nothing weird, you know? Like my guy in this show, Dave, his extracurricular activities are wearing a leather thong and setting someone. I should probably stop there because I am deep in spoiler territory.
I recently taught myself to play the piano
Nice.
because it's very relaxing for me. I used to play a little bit when I was a kid, and then I stopped for years. And then I just picked up some random Barbra Streisand and Adele songbooks and just started playing Someone Like You.
My hobbies became my life. All I want to do in the world is watch movies, watch TV shows, listen to music, read books, and then think about all of those things and then try to do them myself.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Doing very, very well.
Hi.
We are so excited to talk with you. We spoke a few months back.
Did we talk about sandwiches?
We did talk about sandwiches.
I remember you guys. I remember you guys. Do you know what? As soon as you came on the screen, I thought it was you guys. We talked about Christmas sandwiches, my guys. I remember you. How are you?
We are doing so well. I'm so happy that you remember that because we wanted to ask you, what bread did you end up using for your Christmas sandwiches here?
Focaccia.
Oh, we went with focaccia. Okay.
Yeah, we went with focaccia. I think it was from Marks and Spencer, which is kind of like a bougie food store in the UK. It went real well. It was really good this year. How about you guys?
It went super well. It was a great sandwich. I went with a nice Portuguese bun.
No, a Portuguese bun. Wow, exotic.
Portuguese bun, yeah. Yeah.
Nice. I don't have my phone.
It was very good.
I actually do have a photo of mine as well. One of these days, next time we do this, right? Let's send a note and have it flagged before so we can compare some sandwiches.
We need to do that. I would be delighted to do that.
No one else wants to talk to me about sandwiches. I just ate half a sandwich with my makeup artist and my publicist, and all I wanted to do is talk about sandwiches. But they were like, we should be talking about, you know, the show and the launch and everything. So I'm glad you guys are here.
Yeah, no, we're here. But I guess we do have to talk about this show. I promise.
We should
though,
probably,
next time.
yeah. Smoke
next time. I'm just curious. You know, your character in Smoke, Dave, has this amazing, you know, need to want to write a novel, and it got us thinking about what you get up to in your spare time, other than sandwiches, obviously. What's a hobby for yourself that may surprise people that you spend a lot of time dedicated towards?
I don't know. I always panic when people ask me about stuff like that because I don't know that I have any unusual hobbies. I run a lot. Which is something that is pretty standard, but I find it to be something that really kind of fixes my addled mind a lot of the time. I read, and I spend a lot of time when I have the time. I camp with friends and we'll cook outside and things, you know? So it's all quite earthy, normal stuff, but nothing weird, you know? Like my guy in this show, Dave, his extracurricular activities are quite upsetting, you know? If you've seen the show in its entirety, you might know that it involves wearing a leather thong and setting someone. I should probably stop there because I am deep in spoiler territory. But it's
not good.
It gets pretty weird for Dave. But no, my extracurricular stuff's pretty standard.
I recently taught myself to play the piano.
Nice.
Because it's very relaxing for me. I used to play a little bit when I was a kid, and then I stopped for years. And then I just picked up some random Barbra Streisand and Adele songbooks and just started playing Someone Like You. That's one of the hobbies. I also like to garden.
Is there anything that you love gardening, like in terms of plants or flowers, like your favorite?
So I'm trying to grow some vegetables and fruit with my son. We've got some rosemary herbs, some tomatoes, and trying to keep the rabbits away.
I mean, I'm a decent pool player, I guess, but that's about it. I mean, my hobbies became my life. And I'm very I don't think I'm a simple person, but I'm very simple in my tastes, in what I like and don't like. And so I'm just, hey man, all I want to do in the world is watch movies, watch TV shows, listen to music, read books, and then think about all of those things and then try to do them myself.
You've been part of so many amazing projects in film and television over the years, Mystic River, Gone Baby Gone, Shutter Island, just to name some of our favorites. What's it like adapting a podcast series to television?
Well, I would say the first thing is not adapting. I was brought the podcast by Carrie Antholis, who created it, and I listened to it and I said, this is a great podcast, but it's not for me. It wouldn't be a TV show. It's not a story I really want to tell, but I love the story of the central human being, John Orr. I love the story of his psyche. That I find really interesting. This is a guy who is so in denial and so performative that he thinks of himself as a hero, and he's chasing somebody who turns out to be the villain, who is also him, while he's writing a book about a guy chasing an arsonist who turns out to be committing arsons that mirror the real arsons in real life, with details only the arsonist could know. And that, to me, struck me as so just insane, just bananas, that I said, that's what I want to do. I want to take that. I want to take some of the details from a couple of the fires, and I want to throw out 90% of the rest of it. I just don't want to do it. So that's why we're Smoke and not Firebug, and that's why we're inspired by, not based on, because I went so far afield, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create my own little beast.
And right out of the gate, we're starting off with a banger theme song. What was it like collaborating with Thom Yorke?
It's kind of hard to put that into words. I mean, there's very few people who really impress me or who I would use the word idol around in terms of, but I mean, anybody my age and slightly younger was blown away by the work that they did in the 90s. I mean, it was, in the 2000s. So I heard from my music supervisor that Thom was a fan of Blackbird. And I went, what? And she said, yeah, no, really. So should we approach him about a theme song? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we did. And then he asked to see some scripts. I sent them to him. He had a conversation with me about what I felt the show was really about, at its sort of thematic core. And then he went off and he wrote that song. And then he turned it in. And the most absurd moment of my life, or certainly one of them, was then they said, okay, so can you give Thom your notes on the song? And I was like, I'm not going to give notes to Thom Yorke on a song. My note is, it's great.
One of your lines that Michelle says in the series that really stood out to us, she's like, I'm a job is me. Did you see that as a sign of strength, or is that more of a tragedy for Michelle as a character?
I don't really judge it. I justify it. So to me, it's a fact. It's a truth, right? But it's also a lie. She's lying to herself. It's the thing that she holds on to, because anything else, if she were to actually let her guard down and let her mask down, she would actually have to confront the feelings that are lurking underneath. And so she keeps her armor up. She doesn't really want to attach to people. She doesn't really want to be in touch with her vulnerability because it hurts too much. She's truly that little girl trapped in a closet inside. But outwardly, she has to put on her armor. And that is what she is perfected and she has learned to do. And in that scene you're talking about, I really loved doing that scene because it was a moment to show the crack in her armor, to show the disconnect between what she says and what she actually feels. How many of us lie to ourselves every single day? We say this is how it is, The job, I think, is where she finds purpose, where she finds meaning. It's what she is attached her identity to, but it's not all she is.
Now, you and Taron have great dynamics with one another. What was it like building that chemistry?
I have to say, I'm so blessed to have a partner like Taron. He was willing to get in the sandbox and play and discover. And sometimes it felt so freeing, being able to improv and find things that weren't necessarily obviously on the page. When Michelle first interacts with him, she approaches him very much so from a humble, point of view of teach me your wise ways. I don't know anything about Arson. I mean, that's just her way of disarming him, and knowing she outranks him. She's feeding into his male ego, right? Because she needs to use him. She needs him. And neither one of them want her there, but she's got to catch these two arsonists. She needs his help doing it because she needs to be able to go back to Burke and go, told you, motherfucker, you can't keep me down.
Was there anything that you learned about arsonists or anything that you found interesting that you didn't know about that world?
No, I won't say that. I think because fire's been a long time fascination to me, so I already kind of knew a lot about it. And what maybe surprised me was some of the motivation. So it's like what Dave says in the first episode is very true, that a lot of arsonists become arsonists because they feel very powerless in their lives and they want other people to know what that feels like. So they trap them in a fire, burn down their house, that kind of vibe. The other thing was there was another arsonist out there who I stumbled across. Actually, he's mentioned at the end of the podcast, who was the inspiration for Freddy. And I found the two different types of arsonists in our show interesting because of that. Dave is somebody walking around who thinks he's a victim. He's got that white man grievance of the world isn't the way I was promised it was supposed to be. That bullshit, in my opinion. And Freddy is a true victim. Now, what he does with that victimhood is wrong, 100%. It's pure evil what he does to that family at the fire at the first episode. But he is a tragic figure. He came out of the womb and he was screwed from get-go. He had no parents. He had nobody who loved him. He had no education, no proper education. God only knows what happened to him in those foster homes. It goes on and on. The list goes on. And then he can only get that one crappy job and he lives alone in that terrible, crappy apartment. And people live like this every day. And we pass them on the street. We pass them on the subway. And I wanted to tell the story of that sort of dichotomy, that split between what Dave thinks he is and what Freddy really is. So Freddy's story, I think, is the most serious one in the show. And it's certainly the most heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh, so much. I don't know that I was really familiar with basic terms like an incendiary device. I did a lot of research and spoke to experts in the field, but then also I spoke to a therapist about Michelle's inner life and inner workings. I worked with my coaches. I have a movement coach. I work with my trainer, Jeanette Jenkins. I put on a 15 pounds of muscle. By the end, I was up to 20 pounds.
Damn.
Michelle's a former Marine, so I tend to be a bit leaner in my personal life, and it just felt like, she's got all these intense workouts. She should be a little more muscular than I typically am.
Segueing to Dave, you bring such different colors to your performance in Smoke. What was it about Dave that really made you curious?
I think, we last spoke for Carry On, and in some senses, playing a guy like that feels like, considering my first film role was as the lead in an action film, Carry On kind of feels like a fairly bread and butter gig for me in some ways. That bread and butter was especially for you guys as well.
We were very happy.
Thanks, thank you. Yeah, Portuguese bun and butter. But I think the thing about playing someone like Dave is it feels like a nice subversion of someone who often plays or has played a hero role, because Dave's a man who thinks of himself very much as a hero. And I don't know that anyone who's truly heroic really thinks of themselves that way. Do you know what I mean? But you guys, excuse me, I was chugging Diet Coke before you arrived. I think, Dave's an undeniably kind of fascinating, audacious part. And I was just very, very keen to try and figure him out, really.
Taron, thank you so much for your time. It's so lovely to talk to you again.
Yeah.
And I really hope we get to very soon for whatever you have coming up. We'll definitely flag the sandwiches, though, next time.
Flag of sandwiches. Yeah, you're a delight, boys. Maybe see you in person one day.
Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye.